Good evening, everybody. This is the December 12th meeting of the Concord Zoning Board of Appeals. We have three of our members here, Thomas Swaim, Rav Via, myself, Taylor Kilmans, and one member is remote, Elizabeth Dwyer-Leonard. Can you just recognize that you're here? She's there.
I'm here.
Good. Pretty full agenda tonight. Let's get going to 7 o'clock. Hearing Pat and Peter Nelson for a special permit on the zoning bylaw section 715 and 11.6 for an 86.33 square foot addition that extends the existing 1 foot side yard setback at 52 Cottage Lane. Now, we had approved a special permit for the same September the 19th. And so this is an additional special permit.
This is a late coming thought that we wanted to try to.
Okay, so let me turn it over to the applicant. Name and address, please, and then explain what you would like to do.
Okay, and I did have some slides that I sent in. That I can go ahead with.
Yes.
Simple.
Yeah.
Yes, I did come to you in September.
Name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry. Tricia Nelson, 52 Cottage Lane.
Thank you.
In September, you approved an existing non-conforming setback for a living room that we wanted to add to our house.
Mm-hmm.
The purpose of adding the living room was to have more space on the first floor so that we could, if we need to, move our bedroom down to the first floor and age in place. It was basically what we were thinking about. Over time and in talking with our design build guy, Corey Peck, we realized that we really do need another bathroom to be attached to what would then become a bedroom on the first floor. So what we're asking for is to extend the existing 1 foot side yard setback on the other side of the property to construct this bathroom. Full bathroom.
Can you scroll down?
We originally, the actual application was for the 86.33 square foot addition. Last week, we met with again, our builder, and he suggested we see if it would be possible to amend that to extend the rear of the room 1 foot back. So it would be a 98.64 square foot addition. Both of the sizes of this room are allowed by, the gross floor area is allowed by right. It doesn't exceed the gross floor area. It does extend the existing non-conforming setback by 1 foot. So if you just go to the next slide, I just want to remind folks of what, I don't know if you can even see that. I don't think you can really see it, but that's the plot plan as it was approved by you in September. So it shows the proposed addition on the left, the larger addition that was approved, and then the smaller addition on the far right, which is right up against our neighbor's property. That's where the setback non-conformance would be. The next slide shows that addition. No, it doesn't show that addition. I think we might have skipped a slide, but yeah, that's without the addition, and then the next one looks just like it, but has a little tiny addition on it.
Yeah.
Let's see what it's going to look like. Yeah, and then the next slide just shows you how close we are with our neighbors who have expressed support for this project. So then if you go to the next slide, just to give you an idea, and these are not very well done, but if you need to scroll down a bit. Right now, our neighbors, when they look over their fence into our yard, when we have the new addition that you approved in September, that's what they will see. If you go to the next slide, it shows what they will see with the addition of the bathroom. So that's the story. It's here again. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for from the board?
Oh, that's the rear elevation.
Yeah.
Sorry, there was another slide.
Yeah.
The back of the house.
Yeah, so was there an addition on that side previously, or that side wasn't being? touched
No,
previously?
the
Okay.
house ended.
Okay.
At the.
Okay.
Yeah, and
So-
then we'd be adding on about a, 15 by 8, no. 8, I've got both my projects mixed up. But a small bath.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have Elizabeth Hughes here, but I assume because this is being presented as another second special permit versus an amendment of the first special permit,
Right.
that's the way to go.
Right,
And I feel like I'm ambivalent
Mhm.
either way, so, I didn't have any other questions.
yeah, okay. Tom?
No,
Questions?
it's non-conforming, it extends it, but I don't see that it's a substantial detriment.
Okay, Elizabeth?
It sounds like, no, you had said the abutters remain in favor of this?
Yeah, yeah.
Great. Okay, that's my only question.
I'm here
think-
for a better, so totally fine with us. Yep.
Great, thank you. Okay,
Okay,
that was my only question. Thank you.
okay, thank you. So those were the questions from the board. Let me go open it up for public comment. If there's anybody here who wants to speak in favor or against this proposal. We heard just one,
We want the abutter to say their name for the record, or?
I think
Maybe
that would be
helpful.
good.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm Tammy Dayton. I'm at 50 Cottage Lane. We abut Pat and Pete Nelson on the side where they want to do this 1-foot addition, and they've talked with us about it. We're fine with it.
Great, thank you. No further public comment. Up here, but no further, so this is, in my mind, this is a small addition, and it's, as you said, it's just a new special permit, not amendment to the other one. The wall that's being extended, it's a blind wall, so there's no windows in it, et cetera. So I think that, from a neighbor's point of view, it's shouldn't be a big deal, even, and it's also not visible from the street, and so no
Yeah.
neighborhood impact. So that's how I see it. Anybody else want to
No.
talk or
I think it's
make a
good.
motion or?
Good addition to the plans, and I'm in favor. So I move that the application of Pat and Peter Nelson for a special permit under zoning bylaw section 715 and 11.6 for an 86.33 square foot addition,
Let's make that 98.6.
Yeah.
98.6 square foot addition that extends the existing 1-foot side yard setback at 50 Cottage Lane be approved.
I second that.
All those in favor say aye. Ms. Fria,
All right,
Ms. Dwyer Leonard,
Aye.
and chair votes aye as well. There you
Thank
go.
you. Thank you.
I'm glad you like it here and you keep on coming back.
Yeah.
705, Kimberly Sawyer on behalf of Lee Merlenkamp for a special permit on the zoning bylaw section 715 and 11.6 to allow the construction of a 60 square foot open covered porch 12 feet from the front property line, which extends the existing non-conforming 15.9 foot front yard setback and the addition of a second story dormers within the side yard setback at 7 Seymour Street. Anybody here? Just name and address, and please.
My name is Lee Molenkamp of 7 Seymour Street. And we are here because we'd like to be able to add a second floor to our cottage on White's Pond. It is within the GFA allowed amount, so we'd like to be able to put a second 2 bedrooms upstairs and 2 bathrooms upstairs, and to allow more living space on the main floor. Right now, the main floor consists of a kitchen, living room, and dining room, and 3 bedrooms, and it's very confining for our growing family. So we'd like to be able to open up that first floor space and then add additional bedrooms upstairs. For a total of 3 bedrooms on the lot. And there'd be a small covered porch that would extend the current footprint, but other than that, the footprint of the cottage would remain unchanged.
Okay. That was it. Questions from the board?
What size will your front porch, do you know, will be?
It's very small, it's just a little covered area, so I think it's noted at 60 square feet.
Yeah, but today there's no porch there,
There
correct?
is no porch there right now.
Okay,
And it looks like there's already kind of a peaked roof.
There is a
So,
peaked roof,
do you
so
know
there
the
is an
difference?
existing attic space.
Yeah, do you know the
Um,
difference in height between peak of that roof and what will be there after the second floor is added on?
I have that.
It might be determinable here, but.
I can't tell you, I mean, I know it's within the range, it doesn't extend it that much, I have the drawings here if you wanna see it, the before and after.
Yeah, I can see the elevations, but I wasn't sure if there was like okay, maybe
It's a very modest increase in
it
the
did,
height.
it looked like that, yeah.
Yeah,
And I would say, from the beach at White Pond, I don't think you'd be able to, there's enough tree.
no, you would
Sort
never
of
be able to.
screening that
do
you wouldn't be able to see it, right?
Yeah. It's only, it's adding another, 900 square feet on that, second floor. And it's a very modest, renovation to the cottage.
Mhm.
Something that hasn't come easily to us. It's something that, has been in our family for a long time, for 65 years, and I can tell you, we want to maintain its current look as much as we possibly can, but also make it more livable for our family.
Yeah, and is it correct that the number of bedrooms is essentially gonna stay the same?
It's
just
gonna
move
stay
them
the
up?
same.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just, the first floor is just, so tiny.
Mhm.
With all of the confining rooms and, it just has been very difficult as our family's gotten older to be able to.
And you mentioned, well, I think in your application or your narrative, you mentioned that you talked to your neighbor, right? You have one residential neighbor and yeah, there's nothing on file, but you talked to the
Yes,
person.
he's absolutely in favor of it. We've been neighbors for 65 years.
Good, good. Elizabeth, do you have any questions?
No, thank you. I don't.
Okay, let's open it up to the public, see whether there's any questions or comments from the public. Not here, there's nobody here. Nobody online, nobody's raising a hand, so I'll close the public portion of this hearing and bring it back to the board. And what's your fancy, board?
Yeah, I mean, based on the plans and, the questions I asked, I don't see any substantial detriment to the neighborhood, and I think it is, modest and well thought out addition here, so.
Mhm. Yeah, it seems thoughtful and I believe within the existing footprint, doesn't disrupt any trees or anything, so seems good.
Good. That said, Elizabeth,
Yes, may I make a motion?
you may.
All right, to grant a special permit under zoning bylaws section 7.1.5 and 11.6 to allow the construction of a 60 square foot open covered porch 12 feet from the front property line, which extends the existing non-conforming 15.9 foot front yard setback and the addition of second story dormers within the side yard setback at 7 Seymour Street.
Second.
All in favor, Ms. Dwyer Leonard,
Aye.
Ms. Sophia?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well, so congratulations. Being 7:10, Dale Cataldo for a special permit on the zoning bylaw section 715 and 11.6 for a 1,330 square foot addition that increases the gross floor area by more than 50% and demolish an existing 324 square foot detached garage and construct a new 320 square foot detached garage at 95 Prairie Street. Anybody here to speak?
Yes, my name is Elise Stone, and I'm here representing Dale and Joe Cataldo. So this house was built in 1906, and it's been really not touched. It's in very, very poor condition. The existing lot is non-conforming, both in area and in the left side setback. So the area, it's a residency, it's 10,000 square feet, and the lot has 7281 square feet. So it's a corner lot, which means it has two front setbacks. So you can see that's the site plan up there.
Mm-hmm.
So the it's non-conforming on the front setback, facing Prairie Street, but we're not touching that. So that's staying kind of as is. So it's the left side, it is down to 7.4 is the existing side setback that you see there. So the project is to add an addition out the back, and then to remove the roof and put a third floor roof, kind of a third floor within the roof. And then to create like a usable, really, it's gonna be a usable, single car garage, but kind of oversized a little bit. Right now you can't, the garage is unusable. So we're adding obviously more than 50% of the existing square footage, and that's why we're here with the non-conforming lot. So the left side setback and the rear setback it'll all be conforming as it is now. And it's only the left side setback, but the new proposed setback for the left side is 12.9. And this does not get closer than the existing 7.4. So the garage is, it basically is rebuilt, but there's not going to be any living space or anything in there. It's just a garage. And there'll be storage on one side. We conform to the FAR. So, we're under the proposed. So the only thing we're really here for is that left side setback.
That's it?
Yes.
That's it. Question from the board.
I'm just curious, not an objection, just curious. What's the defect in the existing garage, or what are you accomplishing by eliminating that and building a new one?
It's very small. We're making it bigger so that you can actually get a car in there.
Yes,
You
that
really can't get a car, and it's very low.
Okay,
Yes. Probably, maybe a shed at some point, but it's a little bigger than your average shed.
thank you.
Are you gonna use the same driveway apron?
Basically, it's gonna get a little wider, but the garage is staying in the same general location.
Maybe because, and I'm not sure whether we should be worried about that. There's a big oak sitting right next to the driveway apron, big oak tree. And as far as neighborhood character goes, or that might, that might be consideration to make sure that stays no detriment to the neighborhood. This is
Yeah, that's a nice.
so. Anyway, so that was my only point. I mean, I can see from what I've seen on on that it's it's understandable that somebody would wanna do this. No further questions from the board. I'll open it up for public comment here. See whether there is anybody who wants to speak and say, yeah, go ahead.
Pam Swing, and I live at 54 Francis Street, which is immediately abutting. this
Yeah, so
property.
on the other side of the garage.
Yeah, right, the other side of the garage. So, I also am concerned about that tree. I'm very fond of it. So I just wanted to raise that as a possible issue. The former owner used that garage for years, so it does fit the car.
Mhm, mhm.
I'm sure it would be nicer to have a nice new garage than to try and make a new garage.
Mhm.
And then my only other concern is that this would be the first 3-story house in the immediate neighborhood. So it's gonna loom a bit.
It's really not that high. It's not gonna be higher than the house across the street, believe it or not. It really isn't. I mean, it's dormered, so the ceiling heights are the same as what they are now for the first and second floor. And then it's just the roof is, gonna be pitched. Right now it's a gambrel, so it sits lower, obviously. But,
Okay, well, that's reassuring.
yeah, no, it's not gonna be as tall.
Can we get elevations on
But it looks like you're going from
it? Okay.
current 27-ish feet to about 32 feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a few feet taller.
Right. On the positive side, I think the house has been very attractively redesigned. I like the architecture of it.
Thank you.
One more over here.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Marty Flotkin, also 54 Francis Street. So what is what are the rules concerning the 50%, more than 50% increase in living space? Is that an issue here? Is that an exception you have to grant?
That is a special permit. That, we have to have some findings. Made so that but otherwise, if there's findings are made, we can grant a special permit. And one of the findings is, no great detriment to the neighborhood. Now, when it's like, if a tree comes down, in this case, I mean, looking at it, it's a dominant tree, right? So having that come down, I can see that, I can make the argument that that's detrimental to the neighborhood. And then there's some other, and I can read them for you, if you will. Yeah, impact on economic community needs, traffic flow, safety concerns, adequacy of utilities, impacts on neighborhood character, impacts on the natural environment, and fiscal impacts on the town. So all these are, we need to make findings that there is none of these, but in this case, as I said before, it's clearly states impacts on neighborhood character, right? And the house, while it's a bit taller, it doesn't, at least in my mind, doesn't necessarily impact the neighborhood character. It's well designed, the style of the house fits, etc. So then, a homeowner obviously has the right to build something.
And I just wanted to say that I think the step back in the extension on the rear of the house towards the garage is well done.
Yeah.
What's the increase? Are there more bedrooms now than there were in the original?
No, there's 3.
And there
And
were
there's
3
3
before,
now, yeah.
but they're larger? Or what's the-
They are, yeah, there's like a master suite. There's 2 bathrooms on the second floor now. As opposed to, there's one on the third, one on the second.
But as I recall, the late owner connected to the sewer, so it's not a. Is that?
Yeah,
right?
it'll still be,
It'll
yes,
still
there's
be-
no septic system on this side.
Great.
Could we go back to the tree for a minute?
Yeah.
So what could be done to make sure that that tree has, enough space around it to have a good root system and stuff?
We'll need to come up with a condition that, I wouldn't wanna have the pavement, extend any closer to the tree than it currently is. That, would be. It's pretty close at the moment. It's 3 or 4 feet. So, and I do think that, that can be done. I mean, it's something that can be done. Let me go back, see whether there's anybody else. Yes, there is somebody else. Mr. Moore, please state your name and address.
Hi, good evening. My name is Eric Moore. I'm at 45 Francis Street across the street. I appreciate your concern around that oak. It's majestic, and I second as well the comments from Pam Swing and Marty Plotkin around the design. The garage is beautiful. I recognize, that it's perhaps obsolete. I'd be curious to see if there's any way to save the garage. It's got basically 2 pairs of doors by reworking the entrance to the garage, but I understand the desire to take it down as well. From looking at the plot plan, my estimate, I'm no architect, right? But my estimate is that the new garage would come about 6 feet to the south. And so I do have the question as to whether or not the driveway line for the new garage would collide with would be consistent with where the current edge of the driveway is. Overall, I think it feels thoughtful and it seems to fit the neighborhood. So I support it. But again, the oak, and there's also a really lovely beach on that property. I don't think that the beach is going to be in the way for the work, but that's another tree that I think is a special tree. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Anybody else wanting to speak? Seeing none, bringing it back to the board for deliberation. What's the board fancy?
What would be a good way to phrase the condition about protecting the tree?
I think the driveway apron, the pavement should not be coming any closer to the tree than it currently is. I think that would be sort of the best that we can, and it might mean that the garage shifts a little
Yeah,
bit.
that's okay.
A bit closer to the house, or your storage goes to the other side.
Layer between the house and the garage, but, if that's a condition, I'm sure we can work with that. We have to shift it a few.
If the garage gets shifted, do we still have a good plot plan that we're approving?
Or I think we can describe, we can describe that.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Anybody?
Otherwise, I think it's in keeping with the neighborhood and.
Oh, somebody is,
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Cataldo.
Joe Cataldo, I am a landscape contractor and we are very sensitive to that oak tree. That oak tree will be pruned. We'll have a certified arborist inspect it, and we have no intention on removing that tree. That will be cared for, and we will definitely build the garage and do whatever necessary. Paving would be respective of the distance from that tree and the tree roots.
Great.
Thank you. That's appreciated.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good. Mm-hmm.
Ready?
Go ahead. I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay.
I move that the application of Dale Cataldo for a special permit under zoning bylaw section 715 and 11.6 for a 1,330 square foot addition that increases the gross floor area by more than 50% and demolishes an existing 324 square foot detached garage and constructs a new 320 square foot detached garage at 95 Prairie Street. Be approved with standard conditions and additional condition that the driveway paving not be any closer to the existing oak tree that it is currently. And that if any adjustments to the location of the garage, as shown on the site plan, need to be made to accomplish this, that would also be within the scope of the approval.
I second.
All those in favor, Ms. Fia,
All right,
Ms. Dwyer Leonard,
Aye.
and chair votes aye as well. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Great.
7:15, Sur Atias, for a special permit on the zoning bylaw sections 6 to 11, 715 and 11.6. For the demolition of an existing 858 square foot dwelling and the construction of a new 586 square foot dwelling that increases the gross floor area by more than 50%. 37.7 feet, which exceeds the 30-foot height limit at 241 Shadyside Avenue.
Good evening.
Good evening. Go ahead.
So, my name is Jeremiah Heck. I'm the architect for the project, and I just wanted to introduce the team. We have, I believe, the homeowner online, Zola. Who's supposed to be tuning in. And I also have this evening Paul Kirchner from Stamsky and McNary. We have two parts to our presentation. The first part is regarding the nonconformity of a lot, setbacks, etc. And the second part is somewhat unique in our hope that you'll look favorably on our height extension. So I'll turn it over first to Paul, who will go through the first part.
Good. Good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Kirshner from Stamsky McNary. We are the engineers and surveyors for this project. So as Jeremiah said, this request is really twofold. First, we have requested a special permit to allow the increase in gross floor area exceeding 50% of the existing structure. The lot is currently non-conforming in regards to lot area and minimum frontage. So as the existing house is 858 square feet and the proposed house is 5,860 square feet gross floor area, a special permit is required in order to build a proposed dwelling. The second special permit that we requested is related to the building height. As we'll go into further, historic barn is proposed to be incorporated into this new house design, which requires from an architectural standpoint that the height be 37.7 feet, where 35 feet is the max allowed without a special permit. So if you have any questions related to those
Do you have
matters.
the zoning? I think on our slides, the site plan should be clear.
Just to clarify while we're waiting here, actually, the other one. While we're waiting, the zoning relief is just for the relocated barn.
Yes.
Right?
I'll go through that when
Okay.
we get to that part. And I think as part of our presentation, we presented a zoning plan that should be somewhere in there.
You want the proposed or the
Yes,
existing?
proposed, thank you. Well, both if you can. Yeah. So that's the existing site plan of the existing house. Small little cave, I think it's about 850 square feet. Yes. This is the proposed site plan. The central barn is in the middle and the two wings are really one-story wings to that barn. I don't know if there's any issues. We want to talk about the zoning setbacks, et cetera, before I get into the height issue.
No, to comply with the zoning.
It's all
and
compliant,
With the setbacks, go ahead.
So we recognize fully that height variances are somewhat sensitive. But we hope that this particular case deserves some special consideration.
It's not a variance, right?
Correct.
It's not a variance, it's a special permit.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, yes. Sorry.
That's
Exactly.
big difference
Um,
for us.
So I wonder if you could, well, in your packet, but I'm sorry that online, maybe we should bring it up to further on down. The last four or five pages of the presentation will show you what's in the packet as well. I'll just start talking a little while we're waiting for the drawing, if you don't mind. The history of the Green Knoll Barn, which was in Carlisle, is pretty interesting. It was an old barn that had wings and a central main building, and it was falling down. The town was going to actually tear it down, but the Historic Commission in Carlisle hoped to have someone save it. And that's when Mr. Atias stepped in and agreed to save the central portion of the barn, which is the essentially the post and beam portion of the barn. And that's in your packet there, you can see on the second page. The Historic Commission, I think that's you should have a letter from them, Mr. Carlisle.
We do.
Supporting. I mean, they are quite enthused about repurposing and honoring the old barn. They're quite enthused about repurposing and honoring the old barn on a new site in Concord that has many of the same characteristics as the site in Carlisle, which was near conservation land and near farmland. So that's what Carlisle feels strongly about. Our team, which consists of Mr. Atias and myself, does have some experience in barn renovation. Right now, Mr. Atias is working at 430 Bedford Road, or AKA Hatch Farm Lane, renovation of a barn. And I was involved a number of years ago when I was a younger man in the 25th anniversary building for this old house, that barn that's on the road between Concord and Carlisle, still there. I wonder if we could bring up the drawings. Is that possible also that you can see them online?
It's having a little bit of a issue here. But we did not have video in the video room. But now we just have the floor. I don't know where. But the owl, did the owl go off? The owl went off. Okay. It's lighting up, so it should be coming. Okay,
So there,
sorry for the interruption.
yeah, no, it's all quite all right. Just, before we see the drawings, I'll just, point out a couple we hope are special considerations for this particular, permit. We're only proposing the height, difference in the central portion of the project, and that is the barn itself. The reason, is, and that's, I'm sorry, we're. Drawings is just. Okay.
There we go.
Great, so if you could scroll through for a bit. Just keep going.
Keep going.
Yep. Keep going.
That's where they are, yep,
What's that?
that's the end of it, right?
I'm not scrolling down the other way then, sorry. We were past this. Can you reverse this, correct?
I think it's the architectural plans. Yeah.
Maybe just, go back a couple more, just so I can show you again.
This is the first slide.
So it's not coordinated with what, anyway, you can scroll to that next section if you would. So, in your packet is a picture of the old barn and we had to measure the frame. You know, and it was taken apart and it will be put back together somewhat in the same, hopefully in the same, so we can salvage the existing materials. This is a critical drawing, because it, speaks very closely to why are we requesting this height, extension. This is the original barn that was in Carlisle, and you can see that, the slope of that roof, gave a height of 40.5 and a half inches. So that was the existing, timber frame barn that you have a picture of, on your second page there. We are proposing, a somewhat modified, slope. And that might not be as easy as it makes it sound to change those timbers, but we recognize that the height limitation is 35 feet. So what we did is we went to a slope that is 37 and a half, and it keeps what we think is the barn-like character of the central space.
Are you gonna use the same, wood, same beams and
We
all?
are, but we're gonna have to play the game of bringing down those rafters somehow by cutting at the top or the
Yeah.
bottom to make that work. And that won't be necessarily the easiest thing, but we're trying to be cognizant of the 35-foot limitation. The drawing on the far left is what would it look like if we complied completely with the regulatory 35 feet. And you can see that the slope, and it's a visual thing, the slope begins to look a little unbarn-like, if you will. So we're really trying to honor the look of the old barn. I should say that we are not proposing to have any occupied space. We're not trying to take advantage of this height in order to pack more living space in the barn. We're just trying to do it to keep the barn look. So that's our intention here entirely. So I don't know if you have any, most of those drawings, you can see on the renderings on the title page what it might look like on the interior. Using that, you can see what the exterior might. We feel that the barn-like quality is consistent with the neighborhood because there's conservation land and natural federal land and farmland in the very near neighborhood. So it still feels very much like it did with the open.
And what was the decision to not have the cupola? Or not preserve the
The
cupola?
cupola is actually being used somewhere else by the historical commission, as I understand it. maybe Zora can tell you that, but.
Yeah, the cupola is being kept. The Carlisle Historic Commission wanted to keep the cupola and actually use it on the conservation parcel, a different conservation parcel, I believe, but wanted to use it, or in a different location, wanted to use it as a kiosk. And so, so I'm going to participate in moving it into storage for them, and there's some fundraising involved in just trying to get the as a sort of memory piece to the historic building. You know, try to do some fundraising.
So the dormer light opening on the roof of the new barn, when, if I read it correctly, you're not gonna be using any space up there to begin with.
Right.
Yeah, but what's the light going to do? Does it go all the way down to the?
Yes.
Oh,
Well, you can see on the first page, it's completely open on the renderings.
oh, okay, okay.
So what we're trying to do is, mimic the old cupola in a kind of more contemporary way, but in this case, not for both ventilation and for light, to get light
Okay.
deeper in this, because it'll be quite dark up there if there's no, because of the contrast between the light first floor and the dark top, it'll be very contrasty, so we want to get some light, and also to use it for ventilation because of this high space.
Sure, since you just spoke, can we, for the record, have your name and address, please?
Sure. My name is Zora Atias, and this property would be a primary residence. The proposed property would be a primary residence for myself, my spouse, and 4 boys, and hopefully grandchildren. I'm actually at my son's wedding today, so I apologize for not being there. I currently live at the historic house on 29 Lexington Road in Concord, across from the.
Thank you.
And just so we get a sense, you're measuring from average grade, right? Is that drawing sort of representative of kind of how much benefit that gives you on measuring the height? Where you are in the line?
Represents exactly where we took the, where Paul's firm showed the average grade with the real topography on the site, existing condition. So that's where we got that position of the average grade.
Okay, but the building will be starting, I guess, below average grade where it's located on the site, or?
Well, the site has some topography.
Right.
Slightly steps down towards the back, so that's why there's a slight difference between the average grade and what we're showing as the bottom of the building.
Yeah, part of the height is, if you recall, and if we can bring it back up on the screen, the plot plan, the left side of the house extends a bit further back than the central barn structure does. And the grade is a foot and a half lower. But that is where we need to measure the average grade in order to determine, you know, what is that 35-foot height.
Yeah.
So that does contribute to the 37.7.
Okay. So if the back where that part of the house was not dropping off, you'd be closer to 35?
Right, so I have to do this off the top, so.
Yeah, no, just that
apologies
ballpark
if,
goes.
I make any mistakes here, but, so at the front portion of the house, the closest to the street that the proposed dwelling gets, the average grade is about 99.5. So you could go up to elevation 134.5. We're proposing a roof peak at 133.5. So if we could measure at the front, we'd be okay. We can't, because we need to measure at the lowest point. So the average grade at the lowest point is 95.8. So we exceed that plus 35.
Yeah.
Therefore, the special permit is requested. So it really has all to do with where you measure it. So from the front of the house, it's not higher than 35 feet, but as you have to measure this, it is.
Thank you.
Oh, interesting. Elizabeth, any questions from you?
No, actually not right now. No.
And then just, you know, you mentioned not using that kind of roof space, but so what's the height of the kind of like catwalk sort of level in the barn?
Well, the second floor is about 9 feet off the first floor.
Okay, so it's still a long way from
There's
there
quite
to
a bit
the
of
beginning of
space
the
up in
pitch,
that
yeah,
Unoccupied space,
got
yes.
it, okay.
You know.
And then just, I guess splitting the rest of the living space into two wings, I think increases the sort of footprint in a way. Can you just kind of talk us through the
Sure.
reason that's designed that
Elizabeth,
way?
can you see the drawings at all? Do you want me to put them up on the, maybe just hold them up?
If you can share them, I'm looking at the materials that you have on the website, which are
Oh.
quite thorough. I'm looking at the elevations there.
So that's the material we sent along.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
so
if you have additional, yes, please.
Well, the only thing that I have, and I don't know how to show it to you, is,
If the complete application is available
Yeah.
to display.
Yeah.
on the
Yeah,
screen,
that's
It's
how you can see
available.
this.
Mhm.
there.
Yeah,
should
Yeah.
you,
have-
you can see what we're seeing.
should
Yeah.
have
I've had a
it.
chance to study it and I'm looking at it right now. I've definitely seen that.
What was your, oh, the plan, sorry.
Yeah.
So the idea is to make the central barn the central living space because it's the most dramatic.
Mhm.
And then upstairs is really a family room for all intents and purposes.
Mhm.
The wings are, and so we call that the public space more or less, and then the wings are the private space. One wing is 3 bedrooms for the kids and guests. And the other wing is a master bedroom, wing connected to the garage. So we're trying to keep those zones separate by not putting them in, not trying to take up space in the central living area. which is-
But I guess I was thinking, what, you could have a 2-story private wing, right, versus 2 1-story.
There isn't really enough topography to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think I would think you would actually ruin the site more. You have to, surround the site. We're really trying to be sensitive to the topography and not do a lot of excavation here, if you will.
Mhm.
Try to use the site pretty much as it is.
So, in terms of infiltration, then
Thank you.
because you're adding
Yeah, that's
that
right.
extra sort of going out this way, right, and a lot more driveway as well. And how are you dealing with the roof runoff and?
That's where you come in. Stormwater management. Tell us about it.
We don't currently have anything proposed. There is an existing depression to the left of the existing and proposed driveway that provides some natural stormwater retention. But if the board is looking for some design infiltration, we are willing to provide a roof dry well, although that is not currently on any.
No, I'm glad that you say, sorry, that I'm
No,
picking
take-
this
take
up.
it over,
You're increasing the impervious by quite a substantial amount, so you should infiltrate at the very least, the increase in impervious area. But that's, one dry well won't be doing that. So you need to have a robust plan, I think, to do that.
We can provide something. I'll have to think about exactly what that will look like.
I think the homeowner is in agreement that he understands there's gonna need to be a series of dry wells, and I think I can speak for Zoe. I think he's in agreement that we would do that.
Yeah, whether dry wells or galleys, whatever or indeed, if you want to be more creative with rain gardens or anything like that, or a combination thereof, then I'm not sure whether I need to see that. I think if we approve this plan, that can be conditioned. But yeah, no, given the increase in impervious area, there is quite a bit that you need to, infiltrate.
By the way, I didn't point out that, in addition to doing the timber frame on the inside, the outside materials are gonna try to be as barn-like as possible, possibly even using barn board on the central portion and some kind of perhaps metal roof or whatever, but, on the central portion, but make it feel, like a barn.
Good. Let's open it up for public comment. See whether we have any public comment, anybody who wants to speak about this application. Not seeing, oh, go ahead.
I'm Mark Murphy, 236 Shadyside Ave, with my wife Shelley Peterson. We live across the street, been there for 33 years. And I have several comments in general, against the issuance of this permit. I'll start off by saying in the narrative, the applicant was pretty dismissive that I'd have any concerns whatsoever, claiming my house was well screened by trees. Simply not true. I mean, if I was 20 feet high all the time, there might be some truth in that, but I live at the ground floor level. I have a very good view of this house, this lot. Sit at my dining room table, we see it every day. The word I keep hearing in other special permit requirements is, you know, how modest the request is. There's nothing modest going on here. I mean, they've got a building envelope width of 100 feet. They want to build on 97.5 feet of it. They have a height restriction of 35 feet. They want to go close to 38 feet. They've got a frontage requirement of 40 feet. They want to start building at 41 feet. And as for the barn, I don't care about the barn. I care about complying with whatever our bylaws are. And I don't really think agreements that the applicant has with Carlisle or any other town should be making decisions for Concord. I just don't care. There are alternatives. Make it lower. This whole sense of honoring the barn, it's nice, but if they wanted to honor the barn, it would still be standing in Carlisle. And I'd ask you to look at the front elevations and the pictures there, because that's what I'm going to be looking at. That's what we're going to be looking at. It presents a wall to us. You know, I have any view I've ever had will be gone. The rear of the house is really pretty interesting. I'm never going to see that. That's surrounded by conservation land. I'm going to see the wall that's presented to me by the design of the front. I mean, I think the design turns its back on the street. It turns its back on the neighborhood. What they're trying to do is build the biggest, widest, tallest structure on Shadyside Ave on the smallest lot on Shadyside Ave. So I see no desire or attempt to fit in or go with the neighborhood, except for these discussions about the barn. And again, I don't care about the barn. I'm never going to see the barn, you know, and you're not going to see it either unless you're walking around the conservation land. I mean, Shadyside is a fascinating street. I don't know if you've been there. If you walk down it and look across the street, you think you're in Vermont. I'm privileged to live there. I mean, you see farmland, you see hills, off in the distance, you see, you know, a barn-like structure, or we're lucky to be there. Well, he's wiping away a good portion of what I get to look at. And I don't see that he's honoring anything by doing so.
If I might comment, the idea that we're presenting a wall, I think is not quite true. The barn and the house are hundreds of feet away from your lot, number one. Number two, you have views.
How far?
If I can finish my finger.
Through me, by the way, right? All comments are through me.
Yes, sorry, Mr. Chairman. If you look to the right and the left, especially on the rear elevation, those views are unencumbered and don't change at all. You're going to see the farmland that you see now. In fact, as I understand it, the owner took down a number of trees. It even opened up the view on the left side even more for you. So I would argue that this is a wall. Because it's pretty far away from your house to be a wall that's blocking entirely your view. That just be my opinion.
So the portion right there of what is the end of the garage, that's 41 Street from Shadyside Ave.
And how far are you away from that on the street?
I'm probably in 80, 90 feet from the street.
So I think there's some valid comments made here. So, what's, do you have any thoughts? I'm starting to think we need a site visit.
Yeah,
Can I speak for a moment?
Sure.
You speak up.
Yeah, we speak loudly, please.
Thank you. So I want to caution a little bit what you're hearing. I'd worked with this homeowner for 13 years until they were ready to sell the parcel to me so I could build my family home. On the evening that I closed on it, Mr. Murphy sent me a horrible email on the evening, not knowing anything about me, calling my character into question, quite a personal note. I asked the owner, I ended up calling the owner who I had a very good relationship with, and asked them who was Mr. Murphy, and why would Mr. Murphy, who I don't know, send me such a horrible communication on the evening that I'm celebrating closing on the parcel after a 13-year effort. And the homeowner said, well, they have a daughter and they've wanted to buy our home for a very, very long time. That was the response. That was what the homeowner who sold it to me after a 13-year relationship told me about Mr. Murphy and his experience. I have a lot of letters from the homeowner since I purchased the property, really excited about what could be there. So I think some of Mr. Murphy's comments are just personal comments.
Yeah, and
before-
I'm
before-
dismissing,
pardon me,
and
pardon-
sorry to interrupt here, I'm dismissing all personal comments here. We're talking about an application about that needs a special permit for height, and that needs a special permit for increase by more than 50% of the square footage. So let's keep everything personal out of this and just focus on these special permits, because that's what we're here for. So, and you know,
So I'll
so
just
that,
say- so can I just speak of the view? The trees that the town allowed me to take down, if those trees were on the parcel today, Mr. Murphy's view would be almost non-existent of the farmland that he currently sees today, since those trees came down. So I just want to be clear that and I was authorized by the town of Concord to take those trees down through my application process. But there was not much of a view from his home to the farm fields. His view is actually, and this home is a contemporary home designed to the back views that he has. I'm simply trying to do something similar.
thank you. That being said, I mean, there is, I mean, I think the house is well designed, that's here, but there is, I mean, the blank wall on the left, on the right here is, you know, there, you know, I can see a point, that's that wall, that's right, it's closest to the street.
Well, we put
You know,
windows in
you-
it, but it's the garage.
Hmm?
We can put windows in it, but it's the garage.
Yeah, no, I see that, I hear the comment, and I'm not, and I'm hearing the comment, and that's a point, but, you know, that's also, I mean, and also your counterpoint was like, well, you know, he does not have any impact, not any lights, etc. So, I would like to see the same. And I'm looking over at my fellow board members, and do you want to do it together, or do we want to go separate? Just,
I would appreciate together, because of the stormwater issues. I would appreciate being able to ask some questions of other board members about how that could be managed when there'll be so much impervious surface. And
Yep.
since it's not an area I have individual expertise, I would appreciate that.
No, but I mean, if we're gonna do site visits, we're gonna be continuing tonight. And then at our next hearing, the civil engineer will have a plan, maybe not, I mean, you have a month with the holidays in there, at least at the very least, a thorough schematic plan, you know, with, don't have to run all the numbers just yet, but a thorough on how you're gonna do this. I mean, I'd like to get as much as I can, but, you know, I am considerate of the fact that, you know, in the next couple of weeks, not a whole heck of a lot of work that's done. Yeah, go ahead.
Under the 6-11, where we're dealing with height.
Yep.
It talks about the board finds that a literal application of this requirement would be unreasonable because there are no reasonable alternatives available. With that language in mind, could I ask the presenter to kind of fill me in again on the sheet that reflects the slope study? That is, when we look at the document, I have trouble knowing whether I'm really going to, from the street at least, would I really notice the difference of how that looks given this slope versus this slope?
Well, that's a two-dimensional drawing. It would be a three-dimensional reality.
Right.
And I do think you would notice the difference. I think the nature of barns, in all due respect, is that they have a steep slope, and there was a reason for that, as we all know, snow and the rain and all the rest, so. And they probably stored things up there, I don't know, but that gave barns their characteristics, so we're just trying to keep it. In fact, we modified it down in order to get, you know, within 2 feet, which is what that, to try to make it work. We could always go to the height regulation if we had to. I just don't think it would be as nice, as good looking barn like.
So what was the requirement? Read that again, Tom, please.
Height.
No reasonable alternative?
The board may grant relief in this district, provided the board finds that a literal application of this requirement, meaning the height requirement, would be unreasonable because there are no reasonable alternatives available. So I think the board, ultimately, whatever comes, this decision it comes to, has got to just at least be mindful of that language.
Yeah, no, and I'm actually gonna, looking at the architect here, and I think I'm gonna give him some homework, because, I mean, you just said that you're already modifying the beams, the existing wood, and it's like, so tell me why it would be unreasonable to modify them any further. And you don't have to answer that now, and I think.
Glad to answer it now, it's not unusual. But what I'm saying is, this is a somewhat of a subjective decision on your part, because the lower that slope is, right? I can bring back to you some three-dimensional, I can do some three-dimensional drawings of those versions if you'd like to see what that might look like in a 3D drawing, just so you can get the sense of what we're trying to do. We can lower it, it's, you know, it's probably a 20% slope or something, but, you know, we could always do that, just in our explanation, trying to, again, all due respect, trying to honor this barn and what it is, to keep it sort of barn-like, if you will.
Right.
I'm sorry, were you done?
I'd be happy to give you some 3D drawings if you like.
Personally, I don't think I need them, but.
No, I don't need him. I just looking at just the text, there's no reasonable alternative. And the applicant says, well, I can just, you know, I can lower them. So there is a reasonable alternative.
Correct, and
right,
given, is it Murphy? Given Mr. Murphy's comments, and that's what I was reading, also goes on to say, and that the desired relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the neighborhood, which for me adds to your suggestion we take a site visit. Because even if you lower the roof to get out of the height problem, you still have, I believe, the issue that Mr. Murphy's raised about what he perceives as a block on his view.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting he's right or wrong, but just, I'm not sure his comments would be eliminated by reducing that roof by another foot or two.
Yeah, right, because it's 2 feet that the roof line gets lower.
Yeah, I think we still have to make a, you know, substantial detriment and neighborhood impact, you know, neighborhood character kind of analysis for the increase in floor area, regardless of the barn height, right? So,
I think if you go to the site, which I hope you do, I think that's very informative. I think you'll find that it's a pretty open site. And lots of views in all directions. Now, it may not be that you can see through the barn, I'll give you that. But there are lots of views. There's lots of farmland, lots of conservation land. It's not like we're blocking views, blocking one view, obviously.
Yep, no, I hear you. Okie dokie, that being said, we had comment, actually, we haven't closed public comment, right? Let me go at Zoom and see whether there is anybody on Zoom. Anybody who has their hand up. I am not seeing anybody, so for now, I'll close the public comment portion of this hearing. Do you want to discuss this further? Do you want to schedule a site visit or have Elizabeth? Well,
I mean, it's gonna be tough before the holidays, right?
we're going to be tough before the holidays. It's going to be, I think Tuesdays seem to work fine at 8:30, right?
Yes.
Meeting as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know whether it's up to the applicant if neighbors can attend. And so if neighbors, just in general, we would like you to attend. Because site visits for us,
Paul can speak to the drainage issue.
it's, site visits are, not a public hearing. So, we won't be discussing anything. It's purely for the board to, look at the site and ask questions. We're not deliberating. So it's purely to get some more information, and then we'll bring it back to our next hearing here. So our next meeting is the 9th.
So maybe Tuesday the 7th?
Will work unless we'll pick a Thursday, which will be the 2nd.
That's a tough day because it's right after the January
Yeah,
1st.
that's not a good day.
Okay, so the 7th.
Works for
8:30?
me. Yep.
I'll be there about 8:45. I got another commitment.
Yep.
But go ahead and do it 8:30.
Does that work?
Yeah, I mean, you should leave by sort of 9:15, but I could.
Yeah. That I would hope that it would work for the applicant as well.
We'll make it work.
It sure does.
But excellent. So I'll take a motion to continue this hearing to September.
January.
January 9th. At January 7th is it? No, this hearing goes to the 9th. At what time?
7:25.
7:25. So, anybody want to move that motion?
So moved?
A second.
All those in favor, say aye, Ms. Dwyer Leonard.
Aye. Sorry.
Actually, it was in a working session with Forest Ridge that morning at 9:00.
Ooh, is that? I did not.
Got 275 Forest Ridge comp from a working session for blah, 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 9 AM.
Is that, do we have the working, Kim, do you know whether we have a working session? Yep, we have, so that we can't do that. Because we have a working session.
Let's do the morning of the night.
Yeah, I could do that.
Let's do the morning of the 9th then. Thanks, Tom.
Good call.
Yeah, I mean, I had my day timer for 2024. I didn't bring 2025 with me.
We gotta keep you on your toes.
Yeah, so thank you. So that motion is amended, right?
Yes,
Elizabeth, so.
motion amended to reflect.
Right, so January the 9th, 8:30 at, no, January the 9th, 7:25 here. That's the amended motion. Ms. Dwyer Leonard.
Second.
Second, no, you said aye, right?
I agree, yes.
Yep.
I.
And Mr. Sophia said aye as well, and I said I am in favor of that as well. So we're continued here till January the 9th, which will have some stormwater management and some more information on discussing both special permits.
And 8:30 that morning.
And 8:30 that
Yes.
morning out on site.
Rain or snow.
Rain, we have to, I mean, there's no, yeah,
Oh, yes.
that's why by
Please.
planting this, there's no rain, there's no rain that. Okie dokie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. 7:20, Micah Grasty on behalf of Irina Maldanova for special permit on the zoning bylaw sections 4222 and 11.6 for a 990 square foot detached additional dwelling unit at 262 Virginia Road. Anybody here to speak?
Michael Gresti, I'm present.
Go ahead, Mr. Grasty.
I'd like to share some slides if I may.
Sure. Do you? Can?
Would you like to share?
Yeah, he likes, he's good.
Can the board see them?
Yep, we see them.
Okay. So we're here again before you to present our project for the ADU as ordered by the land court. Just to review again briefly the context, 262 Virginia Road is this parcel over here. In this area, there are some large parcels. There are some much smaller parcels on Quail Run Drive. And there are some even smaller parcels here of affordable housing. So it's a fairly heterogeneous area. And our site 262 fits within this range of larger parcels. Mostly here we have two-family houses, two-story family homes. There are some smaller single-story homes, of course. And then there are extensive wetlands to the south here that belong to the town and to Massport on the north here. If we zoom in a little bit on the site, we get a closer look at the site context here. You can see here that's Virginia Road, the site abuts, and there's frontage here of 120 feet. There's a shared drive here that's shared with number 260, number 244, and 262 that was built at the origin of the development here when this subdivision was created. This is the low point of the site, and these two parcels abut the wetland, as does number 54, Quail Run Drive. As some of folks have expressed concern about impervious surface being created by the proposed ADU, I just wanted to review again that compared to all of the other abutting parcels, this is the one that has the smallest footprints today on this parcel. It's one of the largest parcels and has one of the smallest footprints. And the ratio is therefore very small. With the addition of a, say, nominal 1,000 square foot ADU, that would only be 3.7% pervious area, which is much smaller than most of the other pervious area ratios of the adjacent properties. As you can see from these somewhat dated photographs, but they're a good time of the year, there's a very lush landscaping in the house, and in the front here, which faces towards the wetland, the septic tank is buried here, and this is the rocky knoll here just behind the house. On the other side, on Virginia Road, we see a landscape, it's an orchard, and there are some mature pine trees shown here on the Virginia Road border, which help create a screen from Virginia Road itself. Just for the record, recently this 7,500 square foot house was built about 200 yards down towards Old Bedford Road. It's right on the street. It's 2 stories high. It's very, very large. And this was permitted under the existing zoning for this area. And if there are any eyesores to be spoken about, this I think is certainly one. If we go back to considering the site plan, we had the site surveyed, and you can see here the setbacks shown, dotted line, the existing dwelling, the existing septic tank over here, the adjacent setbacks here, and the wetland boundaries here. The proposed ADU is cited there, more or less in line with the house at number 244. A little further ahead of where the house at number 24 is off Virginia Road, and certainly far back from the street setback here, as well as the 2 side setbacks. If we look in detail, we can see that the house is set further back than these required zoning setbacks from the front and the sides. Our proposal includes a deck which would be pervious and paving which could be done with pervious paving. It's used to absorb any runoff and still provide a firm surface for driving and parking. Although only 1 parking space is now required by the ADU bylaw, we would provide additional parking for visitors and guests. Because the existing septic tank is too far away and on the other side towards the wetland to serve the ADU, we designed a new septic tank. This is the minimum size required by the law, which is the equivalent for a 3-bedroom house. You're not allowed to build a smaller septic tank than that, although of course we would have preferred to. And we sited the leach field within the orchard so we can preserve as many of the orchard trees as possible. In January, we had test pits dug, and they were inspected to demonstrate that the septic tank would not impact the water table nor the house. All of this engineering design was done by Dillis and Roy here in Concord. The ground floor plan of the ADU, if we have the tops towards the north, has a living room, master bedroom, a 2nd bedroom, a hallway, ensuite bathroom, and a shared bathroom, and a double height living space. On the upper floor, there's an attic space for storage. The basement has storage and utilities, and there's some skylights in the roof. If we look at the section, one of the objections the board had to the prior application was that the ceiling heights were too high, so we've reduced those to 6'7", which makes those spaces non-habitable and in compliance with the requirements of the board's decision. One of the concerns that's been expressed in prior hearings and elsewhere is that the access from Virginia Road that we wish to develop would create a traffic hazard. However, we have, as of right, an access there, and so it's merely a matter of designing that carefully so that it mitigates any potential risk to traffic and anyone entering or leaving the property as well, of course. We're here today because we want to ask the board for a special permit to permit us to build up to the 999 gross square feet to accommodate extended family guests and optionally long-term tenants. We're also here to ask the board to grant relief regarding their previous requirement that the ADU be set back to the 150-foot lot width, which is more or less where the main dwelling is. We're requesting this relief because there are multiple site conditions that impose hardship and make it unreasonable to locate an affordable ADU that complies with the lot width requirement and other bylaws. The open area to the north of the parcel that I showed, aligned with adjacent homes, is the logical siting for a proposed ADU. To delve into these site conditions that make it so difficult, the first one is that there is a town wetland, and this is off the Town of Concord's GIS, shown in green here with the 100-foot setback, which creates a wetland setback buffer zone between the wetland and the house, which shows that the existing dwelling is just outside of that buffer. It leaves this small triangular area that would conform to setting back 150 feet, which is the blue line here, and this wetland buffer. This is an area that's susceptible to flooding and is often very wet anyway. The remaining area, that triangle, is the location of a large rocky outcrop, which the previous contractor, the builders of the house, sought to avoid by placing the house further to the west. This is evident by rock that shows at the surface level and by how it's resisted erosion over time. Placing any ADU in this area would require expensive construction of foundations and basement, would require the cutting down of most of these, if not all these mature trees, as well as potentially the adjacent pines, creating a screen with number 50 Quail Run Drive. Further, the site is currently served, as I said, by a shared drive with the other two houses, 262 and 244. The shared drive has been the same since they were built in the mid-1980s. It's deteriorated over time, and it's been subsiding because of flooding there, as well as wear and tear in use. We had previously discussed with our neighbors the possibility of remediating that, but the expense was more than anybody was willing to go to. And so nobody would be willing to share an upgrade of this existing drive. We contend that building an ADU on the southern part of the site would force us to use this drive and therefore further load it, where today it's barely sustaining the existing traffic, including deliveries, contractors, and the like. We did explore some options for alternative siting in this part of the parcel. As you can see here, this will also require the complete reconstruction of the existing septic tank because it would not be adequate to handle an ADU. That would make a much larger septic tank discharging south towards the wetland. These two locations here are within the buffer zone for the wetland, and these locations here would require a excessive excavation of those large rocks, or blasting more likely, as well as cutting down all the mature trees on this edge here, as well as in the island towards the center here. So we're requesting the relief because complying with the requirement to set the ADU back to where that 150 width occurs would impact the town's wetland buffer, increase the risk of flooding of the ADU, as well as the septic tank, expensive excavation, which I just described, loss of the mature trees in two areas at least, loss of privacy with our immediate neighbors in number 50, and the overtaxing of the shared drive, which is already in poor condition. And then, of course, the draining of the wetlands, the enlarged septic tank towards the wetland. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Grassley. Just question from the board here. So this is so everybody knows this is going to run like we typically run our meetings. We have the applicant do his presentation, questions from the board, then we'll open it up to public comment, and then we're going to be coming back to the board again. I want to at least focus our questions a little bit, and correct me if I'm incorrect here, guys, and Elizabeth. So there's two requests made here, right? One is the special permit for increase of floor area. And then the other is for the location. And I still don't know, I still don't see how we can grant that relief. But that we'll get into that more. I just want to make clear to everybody that the increase in floor area from 750 to 1,000 square foot, we've had numerous applications before us in the past that requested that same relief, and I cannot remember a single one that we did not grant, right? So stranger things have happened, but I think the increase in floor area, this board has always looked on ADUs very favorably. So this is a very, I think, pro ADU board in that regard. So that increase in floor area for now, I would like to take off the table. as, you know, that's, let's not discuss that, because you know, I think we could could potentially approve that. So I want to start focusing in on and focus the questions and then our deliberation on the location. Because, you know, everybody in town has the right to build an ADU up to 750 square feet. So Mr. Grassley has that as well. But, you know, the location that he picked for this ADU, I think we need to talk about. So anyway, that all being said, are there any questions about the presentation and the application from Mr. Grassley?
Yeah, so I guess my question, when you looked at the alternative ADU here, you were looking at taking that same design and moving it to a different location on the property, is that correct?
Yes, we didn't do extensive redesign studies. We simply looked at what a 1,000 square foot footprint would look like. So, you know, you could do many different designs within a 1,000 square foot footprint. I don't think that was the most important consideration. The design of the house, that is, the fact that it's got a certain footprint has to have a certain orientation, and therefore requires a certain amount of space, is what we were looking at.
Yeah, but you showed on all those 4 alternatives, you did show the porch, right? Which is also almost 1,000 square foot, if I so.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So a pervious wooden or substitute porch, yes.
Yeah. You know, so I actually, and I'll save that. Yeah, another question. I have a comment here, but I'll save that for later. Any questions? Elizabeth, do you have questions? Oh, Ravi, didn't want to cut you short, but.
No, my question was about whether other sizes had been studied in those alternative locations.
Right. Yeah. So go ahead.
Just to the applicant, your last comment on the negatives about the septic system, I'm just not sure I understood. Could you just explain that one again, please?
Yes, so there's an existing septic system for the main dwelling. I'll just go back to.
No, I understand that.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, so we would have to, that's a concrete septic. It was built back in, I think, like the 80s. It's in good condition for what it needs to do today, but it would have to be completely rebuilt to accommodate the additional flow from the ADU. It would mean it would encroach on the leach field, which would mean moving the leach field as well.
But you would propose with the ADU to put in an additional septic system, correct?
Yes, because the drainage doesn't fall from the proposed site to the north to here. Okay. It would have to go up and down or be tunneled. All of that's, you know, prohibitively expensive.
And if you can't put the ADU in the front, but you have to move it to the rear, are you suggesting that increases the cost for the septic activity?
Either way, we'd have to rebuild. We'd have to either rebuild this septic or build a new one. But trying to rebuild here and pipe with pumps and so on from the other location would be prohibitively expensive. So we're building the smallest possible, proposing to build the smallest possible septic tank to the north.
Okay. And my other question, what is your understanding of the remand order?
I can tell you what the judge said. I think town council is can attest to that. The judge looked at the fact that the town had rejected the application very negatively because the legislature, the governor had just enacted legislation which encouraged towns to be more lenient and more open-minded about the siting and location of ADUs, to encourage the construction of ADUs, and that law would affect town bylaws, which would have to comply with it. And so she was simply encouraging the town to reconsider denying our application because the town would have to be more lenient and more flexible on ADU applications going forward.
I'll leave this up to town council. We don't have to resolve tonight. But in fact, I have read that, section of the Affordable Act quite carefully. And I would suggest it does not apply to this application because it has a definition of an alternative, unit as something 900 feet or less. So I don't believe if you took the language, I'm obviously making a legal argument. That's why I suggest town council would be the ultimate person to define that. And we don't need to do that tonight, but I would not rely upon the new statute of the Affordable Housing Statute, I believe section 7.2 or something like that, that would support the argument that you may be making here. I just raised that, and that's something that can come up at a later date. But
I'd like to respond to that. Firstly, that 900 gross square foot number means that the 750 as of right goes up to 900 square feet as of right. So it does give homeowners more flexibility in applying to build a larger ADU up to 900 square feet instead of only 750 as is permitted by the bylaws today. Secondly, the new law clearly states that towns may not unreasonably oppose the design construction of ADUs. In other words, it's putting a pretty heavy hand to say, nudge, nudge, do what you can to accommodate homeowners who want to build ADUs because we want to build more housing.
we'll leave that to the lawyer to argue, but. so be it.
We still have
Yeah.
zoning in place, and we are also, we're not saying that he can't build an ADU. Elizabeth, were you done with questions?
I am, thank you.
We're here as well.
I
Or do
think
you
that's
have
all
any
my
more questions?
questions. You wanna save the discussion for after?
I want to
public
say
comment?
that, I want to hear it, and I want to just go to the public and then bring it back for discussion amongst us. Because I do have some items that I want to.
I guess one question is, had you looked at building on slab instead of having a basement, given the potential excavation difficulties and the flooding risk of having the basement?
Well, I don't know of another house in the area that doesn't have a basement. So everyone takes on that challenge because they want the storage. They want to put
But this isn't
utilities
a
out of
house,
the way.
This is an ADU, not a house, right?
Yes, but people have to live in it, right? So it has to be able to accommodate anybody living however they need to live. And it's not reasonable to say that you can't have a basement if it's a necessary part of what people expect in a house in this part of the world.
Well, I'm going to interrupt here. It's not a necessary part. We've approved plenty of ADUs, special permits for ADUs without a basement. So, it's not a necessary, absolutely necessary part. Most of them actually, and I think this would be the second one, as far as I can remember, that would have a basement. Most of them are slab on grade. So, and that goes a bit against your argument because it's tough, excavation. And that's only assume if you have the right to build a basement. You don't have that necessarily that right. You have it if you want to, but you can't use the argument that it's a necessary item. A roof you need to have, a basement you don't need to have. That's goes against part. But now we're starting our discussion already, which I didn't want to go to. I wanted to go to the public here.
May I respond to that question or comment before we move on?
Hold on, let's just because we're going to be coming back to that. I want to open it up to the public. And I know there is quite a few people. Please, for all the neighbors, everybody who wants to speak, we read all 11 letters that were submitted to us. Thank you for submitting those. We read them. We obviously also read all those letters from a few months ago. So while I invite you to comment, please do not repeat yourself because we've read it all. So, but that being said, Anita Tackle, please unmute yourself and go ahead.
Hello, I'm Anita Techley. I'm the direct abutter at 260 Virginia Road. And I will note that on one of Michael's slides, 244 and 262, the numbers were reversed. So I'm the one directly in front of the applicant's front door. And if this ADU where he is proposing to put it, I would be a direct abutter on my side line as well. I guess you've seen my letters. A couple of errors. Michael, who has only been on the property for a few years, one other error, the driveway actually has been rebuilt since 1986, so it's not the original driveway. There are some issues with it, but it is not in the abominable condition that he's implying. There are some spots, mainly toward the back of the driveway. The front of the driveway is actually not bad. Second, the principal thing, this really is a proposal for a second single-family home, a large one, even though claiming about only 1,000 feet would be inhabited, with a full basement, with a full attic, with full interior stairs for the attic, exterior stairs for the interior stairs, I'm sorry, for the basement. It's designed really like a single family home, and it's not in keeping with either the spirit or the of an ADU, or even what town meeting voters agreed to when we voted for this. And the state does not require every home in Concord the right to have an ADU. You have to be able to fit it on your lot. And I'd say where he's proposing is probably, it gives him the most privacy. It gives all the immediate abutters no privacy. And that's, on the other points, I will say it really does negate the special permit common driveway that was approved in 1986 for the 3 shared houses that are on this lot. And I don't think that means he gets a second curb cut for this 4th home on this lot. He said he would have that by right. I question that under the original special permit. And otherwise, I think that's those are the only additions to my original letters.
Great, thank you so much.
I should have put my video on, I'm sorry.
That's okay, that's okay. But thank you for your comments. Mr. Grabenstatter.
John Grabenstatter, 300 Virginia Road. This is my 5th meeting now, so I figure my only chance to make a public comment. Thank you for reading all of our letters and your attention to this issue. The only thing that I would add is that no one is forcing Mr. Gresty to build an ADU on his lot. His argument sort of plays out like, this is the only spot that I can reasonably place my ADU, but that's not actually true. And no one is forcing him to build an ADU. He's done so out of a, there are a number of motivations, but I think everyone understands what those are. And, we're going to ultimately have to come to a decision that follows the zoning laws. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anybody else with some new information? See nobody.
I did.
Yeah, Melinda Coolish, go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to make a quick comment. I'm directly across Virginia Road at 295 Virginia Road. And I just wanted to echo what Anita said, which is this really feels like rather than an ADU, we're talking about building a fairly significant second home, which I think is just not in keeping with the neighborhood. and, you know, is not in the spirit of what an ADU is.
Thank you. Appreciate that comment. Jack 65. You are muted. Jack 65.
Hello,
Yeah.
can you hear me
you're
now?
there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My name is Michael Smith and I'm the abutter at 54 Quail Run Drive.
Okay.
And I'd like to speak to 2 points in the applicant's argument. The
Mm-hmm.
first with respect to the analysis on impervious area. And I'd like to say that doesn't take into account that the Quail Run Drive development was also by special permit. And as part of that development, the developer donated approximately 16 acres of area, conservation area to the town, so that the houses could be built with less than the 2-acre lot minimum. So I would argue that that analysis is really irrelevant with respect to the impervious nature of the abutting parcels. Second point I would like to make is with respect to the perk test for the septic system. The applicant contends that the test for the septic system proves that there is no impact on the wetlands. And I would argue that that's not the purpose of the perk test. What the perk test does is at a point of time proves that you have adequate drainage for your leaching field. It does not speak to the leaching field being in proximity to groundwater necessarily throughout the year or other flooding and the mixing of the leaching field with the groundwater, which we have a known problem. And we also know that there's some evidence of an underground flow in the area between Quail Run Drive and the abutter's property, which goes into the basements on Quail Run Drive. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next in line, I'm gonna butcher this name. My apologies beforehand. Sveta Samova.
Yes, good evening, everybody. My name is Sveta Samova, and you didn't butcher it. You did a good job. I'm a Concord resident. I live on 15 Emerson Road on the other side of town. And we have known the Gresti family ever since they moved to town a few years ago. We've been to their property multiple times. And we have participated in some of the previous meetings, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to be able to give my comment. We also sent a letter. So I guess the only thing that I would like to add in addition to our letter is that I really appreciate all the work that the Gresti family has done since the previous meetings to accommodate the comments that were made. And what we saw tonight was, in my opinion, a very well substantiated plan that I know they have consulted town, they have consulted a judge, they have consulted other architects. So I just wonder, what the optics look like, where we're seeing what it seems like a united front of neighbors abutting the property, being in opposition of the building of the ADU. When, I live in an area of town that is much more populated with much smaller properties to the neighbors. And, one of the comments being made that this 1,000 square feet house is really a 2-family house. I mean, excuse me, that is really not the point here. My home is pretty small and it's nothing compared to most of the homes in the vicinity there. And Mr. Gresti showed the newest numbers that you have that are in a 7,000 square feet home. So I think it seems like, just from hearing this, that the neighbors are really not supportive of the project because of what they could be personally inconvenienced. And so this is just a comment that I wanted to make from kind of the other side of town, and what we're seeing here, where there are ADUs on much smaller properties with potentially more complicated zoning considerations. So that's it for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Rachel Bandy.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, this is Rachel and John Bandai. We're at 50 Quail Run Drive, right across from the fence to their property, one of the direct abutters. You've obviously read our letters, the one we sent back in March and this one as well. I appreciate the town and the board's, consideration of all these different factors. Even looking at the diagram, right? Some of the other proposed ADU locations, are not super appealing for us, but I also understand that, the other abutters, have similar concerns with locating an ADU that's closer to their property that impacts their privacy, potentially impacts the water table and so on. So, I think aside from what's been said already, what we just want to avoid here are just unintended consequences where, we have the water table that's impacted. We have other people's privacy, other people's homes that are impacted by this development. And again, would just encourage discernment and, a sense of good judgment and, the potential for compromise from all parties involved. I don't think we need to give in to all aspects of the request, whether it's the, increase in size above the 900 square feet, which was allowed by the legislation, and the location and the basement and the attic, and a number of different things that may not be required simply to have an ADU that people can live in. So that's my opinion. I don't know if my wife Rachel wants to say anything.
Hi, yes, Rachel Bandai. Thanks for your time. A year and a half ago, we had flooding in our basement. It was there was a heavy rain, and it was at the end of January, but we had about 2 inches of water throughout the entire basement. We had to completely take out all the carpet, everything. Water was gushing into our house, and it was terrifying. We ended up having to call the Concord Fire Department, who came out to pump for us. And it took the fire department came back 12 hours later to get their pump, and they're like, oh, nope, sorry, got to keep it here. We're still pumping water. There's so much water in this area, and we're very concerned about digging up the land and destroying the water flow and having all that water rerouted into our property and into other neighbors' property. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'm seeing more hands up, and I don't want to. I'm going to go to Pody too, but please keep it concise. Because it's getting 5:09 and we have a lot of deliberation to do tonight still, so. Go ahead.
I just want to take up and we like to go very similar to happen to us, but at the same time.
We can't understand anything you're saying.
Sorry, my connection is not very good. And
We can't hear anything you're saying. Well, we can hear.
Can you guys hear me now?
This is better. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. My name is Mustafa Karabas. I'm at the 24 Quail Run Drive. I just want to back up like the Bandys family, and then we are abutters. And then that 1.5 years ago, that like the water situation happened at the same time to us as well. It wasn't as bad as the Bandys family, but the water bad issues are like a real thing over here. And also, like, of course, like I support all the comments that has been done here, privacy, traffic, and all the other things, like the really real thing. And then I 100% support our neighbors.
Terrific. Thank you for your comment. Thank you for keeping it concise. Shannon.
Hi, thanks so much for hearing all of our cases. I just wanted to note I'm at 244, which is to the left of the house on the shared driveway. My house is at the lowest point, and so all the water runs off from 260 and 262 into my driveway, as well as along the driveway. It's basically what you would call like a river that flows from one area of wetlands down the driveway to the left of it in my yard to the other end of the wetlands. So I just wanted to emphasize that everything runs off into my my driveway and my yard. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bandy family still has a hand up, but I assume that's just because they didn't take it down, I think. So I'll lower that for them. Seeing no further hands up, I will close the public comment section and bring it back to the board for deliberation. As I said, I think it sounds like the board and like why we did not approve this application. Actually, we denied the application because of the location of that of the ADU, where it was located. It's pretty clear that the zoning bylaw does not allow a dwelling unit in that front part of the lot. So the judge sort of bounced it back to us and said, like, hey, is that unreasonable that you deny that? Is there another place on that lot? So that's how I heard it, where it could go, and why would that be better for the town? I heard something tonight that I wasn't aware of, that indeed that common driveway was built by special permit. So I'm indeed wondering now whether that comment from Mr. Grasty was like, we have a by right curb cut here, is a valid point. So I'd like to investigate that. We could investigate that further. What I'm seeing there, why this location that is proposed is not a good location for the town, for the area. I think, I've been up and down Virginia Road multiple times, even before this application came in, and not after this application. I've been back a few times and looked at this. And Virginia Road to me is somewhat a semi-rural road. That there is a reason why houses were asked to be set back, so that there is a little bit more, it looks a little bit more rural. The applicant in this application, in this location, actually, there's a little orchard up in front that now needs to be at least partially be taken out by this septic field. So, is not good, I think, for the character of the road, where the driveway is, or where the driveway is proposed. There is a stone wall. There is, yes, a hole in the stone wall, but stone wall would not be sufficient width for a driveway. So there's a partial removal of a stone wall that would need to happen. And having combined curb cut, so having a curb cut come out with the current curb cut, the current access to this lot is just good planning, right? You want to combine curb cuts, you want to have them all come out at the same spot, so that you control the traffic better, and that you have less interruptions along this road. That indeed, as I said, my mind, I've always viewed this as a bit of a, at least semi-rural road. So combining curb cuts is just good planning and good traffic management. So I think that's, from a town's perspective, I think is very important, from the overall town's perspective. And I know, Ravi, you had
Just to add to that, I think, the town has this bylaw that restricts what the location being in that front part of the lot, and it's because this is a frontage exception lot, right? So the town has an interest in saying we want a certain amount of frontage for our lots because that's part of the town's character. That leads to all these other benefits to the town that you've been talking about. And what we're saying now is, okay, well, the state has this policy that they want to promote ADUs. Does that town bylaw unreasonably prevent us from, on this particular lot, having an ADU? So to me, I'm looking at it as, the reason this lot's allowed to exist in the first place is because we've made an exception to the frontage rules. Do we now also have to make an exception to allow a dwelling in that narrow part of the lot?
Negating the original.
Right. And for anybody with any lot, right, you work with building what you can based on the restrictions, the physical restrictions, the characteristics of your lot. Here I'd say, yeah, maybe it's unreasonable to say if there was nowhere else to put an ADU on this lot and you simply cannot have any ADU whatsoever. 262 Virginia Road. I could see that as being, yes, that would be unreasonable to enforce that town bylaw to say, we're ignoring the state's policy interest in having ADUs. So I think we want to dig into, right? Is our saying that you can't locate it in that part of the lot where the bylaw says no? Is that unreasonable, and does it prevent you from having an ADU, as the state has indicated is a good policy interest, right? So, I think that's where you were heading to the next part.
That was, and I first wanted sort of the overall, the overarching part, and then indeed, I want to go through Mr. Gressy's argument, sort of item by item, and then, but in the meantime, Mr. Gressy has his hand up, so go ahead, Mr. Gressy.
Thank you. I just wanted to respond to two of the statements. I think the first is, I think we agree that the zoning board has the authority under the bylaws to grant the relief requested regarding the 150-foot lot width setback question. It's within your authority to grant that relief.
I interrupt you there because it's not, and you should have consulted with the council that you had with you, who indeed said that the last application, that if we weren't giving you the relief at that point in time, the next step would be a variance, and variance would have been, in my mind, the appropriate way to address it. But so I do not know where in the zoning bylaw you see where we can get that relief.
If you give me a moment to pull it up, I'll move on to my other comments, which is we had a civil engineer do a traffic study to ensure that the site distances were safe for the curb cut where we proposed to put it, and he came to the conclusion that it was safe. In doing so, he had also looked at the our right to have a curb cut there and confirmed that existed. So that's our contention. I mean, Anita may believe differently and others may think differently, but that's our understanding from the traffic engineer. I'll look up the bylaws in the meantime and allow you to continue deliberations if that's okay.
Yeah, great. I don't disagree with the traffic engineer that where you propose a curb cut, that's an unsafe location. My point is that it's just good planning, sound planning, to combine curb cuts and use only one, especially if you go to add that next layer as it's a bit of a rural road. You want to just have as few curb cuts there as possible, especially if you have them.
Part of why we have frontage requirements, right?
Absolutely,
You don't want 7 driveways with 2 feet in between.
Absolutely, and that's why these were also all combined, and then as there is an existing stone wall, you don't want to modify that. I think that takes away from the character of the road. So that's that. But Mr. Grassley talks about hardship, and goes through, sort of through the points of why this is a hardship. Now, I do think that there is a misunderstanding about what hardship is. You know, hardship is not an inconvenience. Hardship is true hardship, that I can't build something. For instance, if you have too high groundwater and you can't build a basement in your house, that's not true hardship, that's an inconvenience. Let's go through these points. First of all, and this is a good place, I think, to start. Hey, oh, that was, can you pull it up?
I
Otherwise,
don't know if we have that particular. We have a more condensed version, but.
Yeah. So Mr. Grassley is there again.
Yeah, I think he's pointing to the bylaw provision.
Yeah, 4.2.2, the last paragraph here, which describes the board's authority to grant the special permit for the dwelling up to 1,000 gross square feet, and or a reduction in the required setbacks for a detached additional dwelling unit, provided that the desired relief, et cetera, et cetera.
Correct. This is not a setback, though. This is a zoning.
Well, excuse me, sir.
regulation.
In our last series of hearings, the board insisted that this was a setback. We didn't agree.
No, because the board did not, you know, the terminology gets a little bit confusing here, because the building needs to be set back from the road behind this line. It's not a setback in the dimensional table. It's a specific zoning requirement. Setbacks are noted in the dimensional table in the zoning bylaw. So so that's, you know, I think you misunderstood that, but I don't think we are giving you a setback, any setback relief here.
Right. Or in other words, giving you setback relief wouldn't get over the hurdle of the bylaw that's preventing the location here.
Right.
Like that would require a variance.
I respectfully differ, because you're on record as describing this as a setback. And we argued that it wasn't a setback, and you argued that it was, so you can't have it both ways.
No, I've never considered this a setback. The terminology is getting confusing. As I said, the ADU would need to be set back to behind this line. This is not a setback encroachment. Setbacks are noted in the dimensional table of the zoning bylaw. This was I don't know where it is, and this is a specific zoning requirement that was used to create this lot. And that's where it stems from. It's not a setback. So, but the drawing that was up earlier that showed the 4 locations of the ADU, the potential ADU. As I said, I mean, the drawing is pretty, looks very busy, like there is no room, but that's also because there's 4 ADUs drawn on there, right? Think 3 of them away, and then it looks all of a sudden a lot different. Also note that the floor plate of the ADU is the same size as the current existing house. You know, plus all the ADUs are showing the big porch. So it looks all very crowded, like there is no room, you know, and I think there is plenty of room, you know. There is some of these ADUs locations are in the wetland setback, but you can be, there is no prohibition to being in a wetland setback. You can't be into the 50-foot buffer, but within the 100-foot, you can build. You need to file a permit, but you can build there. So I do think, you know, there's a couple of really, I think really good locations there. As we said earlier, you know, for instance, the building outcrop is because it's expensive to excavate. That is only if you require a basement. If you don't require a basement, excavation gets a lot more affordable, obviously. So I just don't buy that argument per se. And you don't have to build in that. And there's still other locations there.
Yeah, I would say, you know, to the extent that substantial cost is cited as a hardship, right? I think it would be an election to incur that cost by excavating a basement versus choosing to build, as many other ADUs that we've approved, choosing to build on a slab. It looks like there's a ton of storage space in the attic here. The basement is not cited as living space, so I think, you know, I have trouble seeing the rocky outcrop as a hardship here.
Yeah, okay. But, and yeah, and so, yeah, it's not necessarily a hardship, it's an expense. And it's an income.
Yeah, I mean, if the expense gets large enough, you could potentially argue it's a hardship, but again, I think you could build this without incurring that expense.
Yeah. The driveway, the current driveway being in disrepair, you know, I was thinking like, well, if the driveway is in disrepair, why do you want to build a second driveway? So you can have that go in disrepair as well. Don't you want to fix the driveway that you have? Noted also on the vehicle traffic that would be on the driveway. A normal single family home, I think the ITE numbers are, the averages are about 8 vehicle trips a day. Now, given over say a 12-hour day, you know, that would be 1 vehicle every hour and a half, you know. I'm not seeing that as overtaxing. I'm not seeing that as a big problem for the driveway that will, you know, further deteriorate the driveway. I think, you know, building a new one and having to maintain that, I think is going to be much more expensive.
Yeah, and you know, I think we've heard the abutters sort of contradict that, right? They don't see the issue with the driveway. In fact, I think they specifically spoke against that. And again, right, if it's an issue of, well, if I'm overtaxing the shared drive and it costs me to maintain that, you're right. Well, you're paying a cost to build a totally new separate
Yeah, why,
driveway. and you have to
so that
maintain
you
that as well.
can't maintain that either.
Um,
So, and then the other, and the loss of privacy that he stated that he doesn't, the applicant doesn't want the ADU close to his existing house because of the privacy of the inhabitants or the potential people living there. But, you know, by shifting it up front, he puts us a lot closer to other neighbors. And, you know, I think that's taking that privacy away. You know, that's an argument that I also don't see. Plus, it's an ADU, and the ADUs are as Mr. Grassi stated, you know, for family members, etc. And it's like, well, you know, it's good to have those people close.
I don't believe that's a protected legal right in any event. Privacy, I don't believe that's a legal argument.
Anything else? Those were sort of my main points. And as I said, you know, looking at that plan, understanding also that I've had a 30+ year career as a site planner. I think there is a lot that can be that can be done with a location on that area of an ADU.
Yeah, I would say, you know, even without that 30 years of experience, to me, I would think you can build a perfectly nice 900 square foot ADU. And if we got into the special permit for the extra 100 feet, I think that's a separate discussion. And it would be, you know, I don't think it would be drastically less affordable than what's proposed here in the restricted sort of location. So, you know, searching for a hardship and looking through the sort of proper justifications here, I struggle to find that that there's an unreasonable restriction on having an ADU in the sort of acceptable part of the lot.
Good.
Elizabeth, did you have any?
Yeah.
No, agreed. I think it's well put. I think that the frontage piece is really important, and to have it back where it's, you know, supposed to be in terms of the bylaw is really important for the character of the neighborhood. So I think the facts of this are different than any other ADU facts we've seen, and that distinguishes this situation.
And I would say we're not trying to prevent an ADU from happening here. We would
Certainly
love
not.
to have a nice ADU here. We as a board feel that our position is our bylaws say you can't put the ADU in that spot.
Agreed.
The judge has asked us to reconsider in light of the state's you know, recent legislation and its strong policy preference for having ADUs. And I think our analysis is, well, is our decision to not allow it in the requested location mean you can't have an ADU? And I think the answer is you can, without unreasonable hardship, have an ADU.
And which
Agreed.
we're seeing here, there is locations. There are locations.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I come out.
I
agree.
Yeah. Tom, anything?
I have no further comments. No.
So, you know, again, I don't think we get to the question around the special permit for going over the size because we don't have a plan that's in a location we can approve.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And that, and as you said, that's, yeah. So, that's where, we stand. While we have her on the line, Kristen, is there anything, you would want us, to do, for people on the line? Kristen Gagelis is our town council.
Hi, everyone. No, I don't think so. I think you've all articulated the reasons why you're not waiving the requirement here, and I agree that you don't need to get to the special permit question if you're not considering the extra 99 feet, I believe it is. But no, I don't have anything additional to add. I think in the back and forth earlier regarding the standard here, I think that the way the members of the board articulated the standard and what the question is on remand is accurate. So I think you've hit all the points required by the remand order.
So Kristen, would we move to confirm our previous decision following this reconsideration, or what's the sort of? Or do we
Yes,
make a
that
new
would make
decision?
sense, and we could provide additional rationale in this remand decision. So you would issue a second decision. Whether you phrase the motion as moving to confirm with additional information or moving to come to a second decision, is either way is fine.
You ready for a motion then?
I think we're ready for a motion.
I would move that following reconsideration as ordered by the judge's remand, the board would again deny the application for a special permit under zoning bylaw sections 4222 and 11.6 for a 999 square foot detached additional dwelling unit at 262 Virginia Road, you know, based on the additional discussion that we had.
I second that motion.
All in favor, Ms. Faya,
Aye.
Ms. Dwyer Leonard,
Aye.
And chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much. And I just want to reiterate here, that's where where we started off from, that, you know, this is not a vote against having a ADU on that particular lot. ADUs are allowed by right in town. And we have been pretty appreciative of ADUs and have them have permitted them on a regular basis. So again, this was purely a legal zoning bylaw question whether we could have that ADU in that piece of the lot, and we just think it isn't. It couldn't, and I agreed with the former counsel, maybe still present counsel of the applicant, that if he wanted to build this ADU in this particular location, the proper route to take would be a variance request. But I also do understand that is maybe a route he doesn't want to take, especially given the comment letters that we received. But that would be the proper route. So just wanted to make that clear. So moving on. We have some meeting minutes to approve. Site visit minute. Did we read these?
I'm not sure I've seen them.
I couldn't, that's why I'm looking. I do not know whether we got site visit meeting minutes. So can we move them on for the next meeting? So we'll not do the meeting minutes. Next meeting is, as we said, January the 9th and 2025. I was debating, thinking about maybe doing that all via Zoom, but I think tonight we got some feedback from neighbors or from applicants here that preferred us to be in person. So and given what's going on next, what's on the agenda, it's a pretty full agenda. We have the Novo applicant coming in. So I kind of want to do a hybrid again.
Yeah, I'll make every effort.
Right, and that's neat because it's in January, so we could have a snowstorm. But if that's the case, we will all just be via Zoom.
Good.
But
Yeah,
otherwise, and just no, Ravi, you have sometimes it's difficult for you to get here on time, but you know, as Elizabeth now here demonstrated, you know, you can participate from home if you can't make it, if there is, you know.
I had a parenting issue come up and I needed to be at home, so.
Right.
But
So
I'll
that-
make every effort to be there in person in January.
Excellent. But, that's also, you know, your issue, that's also parenting issues. Right?
He's not worried about billable hours.
Yes, don't worry about billable hours.
I don't have to.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay, I think that's it. Meeting adjourned.